disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening. Mr. Cooney, you have a disclosure? Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest in the item discussed on January 27th, the closed session meeting pertaining to the Langell appeal for reasons that I'm within the circulated boundary, as I was not in attendance at the meeting. So I'm preparing this statement in the declaration for that meeting that happened on the 27th. In that regard, and I'd also indicate that with respect to tonight's meeting, I have no pecuniary interests.
Thank you. Any other pecuniary interests? Go ahead, Patty.
So I would like to declare a conflict of interest for the item discussed at the January 27th closed session meeting pertaining to the Langell appeal. I have a direct pecuniary interest on the basis that my home is within the noticed area for the application. I'm a neighbor. So for item 5.2 for this evening, I believe I need to declare, and item 3.1.
Thank you. So I'm notifying that Member Cooney and Member Kennedy are declaring conflict of interest for items on the agenda this evening. The Secretary and Treasurer will note those items. Thank you. We have a motion that the Committee of Adjustment made its minutes dated January 27, 2021 be adopted as present. May I have a mover and seconder? Mr. Webster, Mr. Vander Willen. All in favor? Carried. That the Committee of Adjustment, that the closed session of the Committee of Adjustment minutes dated January 27, 2021 that were circulated to members under separate cover be adopted as presented. May I have a mover and a seconder? Only two of you can do it, Mr. Webster, Mr. Vander Willen, all in favor? Can you lift up your sign, Rick? Thank you. Carried. Good evening. Welcome to this Committee of Adjustment meeting to allow the public an opportunity to express their views regarding the proposed minor variances and consents within the Township of Springwater. Each applicant and their agent, if applicable, will be given the opportunity to present their application to the committee in public. Additional information on each of the applications, including any presentation materials, is available in the committee agenda on the Township website. Following, those members of the public whom registered to make an oral submission prior to 4:30 p.m. yesterday, February 23rd, 2021, will be given an opportunity to do so. All oral submissions will be included in the meeting minutes and form part of the public record, including the names and addresses of the speaker as information collected under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the Township website. All comments or questions should be addressed through the chair. I will ask the Secretary Treasurer to please introduce the first application, item number 4.1 on the agenda.
Thank you, Chair. Minor variance application A0321 by S. Cartwright of Canadian Waterfront Services on behalf of the owner of lands known municipally as 1043 Lost Road 4 West. The purpose and effect of the application is to permit the construction of an accessory building, which will exceed the maximum total area of accessory buildings and structures on the subject property, and the maximum height requirement as described as being a maximum total area of accessory buildings and structures of 81.29 square meters, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a maximum of 65 square meters and a height of 5.2 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a maximum height of 4.5 meters.
Thank you. Has there been any additional correspondence or comments received on this application?
Comments have been received from the Public Works Department advising that they have no concerns. The Township's Building Department advised that the septic is located within the front yard and will not be impacted. Building added that it is the applicant's responsibility to ensure that there will be no adverse effects to neighboring properties. The MTO stated that the property is not located within the permit control area, and a letter from the NVCA was received outlining their review of the proposal and concluding that should the committee decide to approve the application, that they do so subject to inclusion of the condition being that the owner obtain an MVCA permit for works within the regulation limit.
Thank you. May I please have the applicant or their agent introduce themselves and provide us with details of what you're looking for.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Good evening, council, committee members. My name is Stephen Cartwright, and I represent Canadian Waterfront Services and obviously the appointed representative for applicants Jeff Tress for the proposed detached garage. We're simply seeking relief from two of your bylaws, basically for size and height. We are requesting a difference of 175 square feet and height of 2.3 feet. We have met all the other regulations or bylaws that are in effect, but as you've heard, obviously we still need to meet NVCA. As it pertains, not to waste anybody's time, we would have liked to have had NVCA approval before bringing this to you, but there was miscommunication and it was late on the NVCA part, basically asking us to provide additional details. So as it concerns, we have already booked a topographic survey for the property to appease the NVCA and their floodplain area, and we're hoping that with a positive review, they will also approve the application and we would be able to construct the accessory building for the client.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission this evening?
Thank you, Chair. No members of the public have registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. Any members of committee have any questions or comments for the applicant or planning staff? Go ahead, Mr. Cooney.
Through the chair to the applicant, I just would like to, in respect to the Conservation Authority's comments there, if the Conservation Authority does not support the building being located in the hazard area, would this building still be able to be constructed outside of that boundary based upon the variance that's being requested?
Hi, Lauren. No, at that point, we would we wouldn't pursue. The applicant would drop everything entirely. We chose this location based on the lay of the land for the property. It is the most unobtrusive, spot for the actual garage. It's very well protected. It's at the back of the building. The septic, unfortunately, is at the front of the property, and the way that the driveway falls, it would not allow the construction of the proposed garage or building anywhere else on the property. So should the NVCA comments be negative and we're unable to appease them, then we would not pursue the variance or the approval no longer. What we are hoping for is that the NVCA has already indicated that they are fairly confident we can meet their requirements with a topographic study or a topographic survey, just to provide and make sure that we are above their existing floodplain hazard. And if that's the case, we'll be okay. But if not, then no, we wouldn't seek to put the building anywhere else on the property.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to understand the size of your building, and if it could be, if the Conservation Authority did not support issuing you a permit, then the risk is that you get approval here, but you may never ever get a building permit because of their requirements.
Yeah, that's understood. It's the way that this situation fell. Again, I don't like to waste anybody's time. I wish we had have had the information from NVCA before the hearing was tabled. So we're in a position now where I'm asking for hopefully approval from the council so that we don't have to defer it. And then if we get the approval from NVCA, it's a matter of just dealing with the building department to say we have, we have all the documents in place that were required and we can proceed as such. But yeah, we were not expecting to have to do a topographic survey, up until about a week ago. So again, I apologize. I did not mean to waste anybody's time with this, but at the same time, we figured we would try to get okay from the municipality to move forward. And then obviously it's hinging on NBCA approval at that point.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
No problem.
Any other members of committee have any questions? No, okay. I have a resolution here then. That the Committee of Adjustment, having given consideration to the applicable, let me back up. I need a mover and a seconder after I read this. That the Committee of Adjustment, having given consideration to the applicable provisions of Section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the land in question and its surroundings as addressed in the planning report on the application dated February 24th, 2021, correspondence received and information presented at the hearing held on February 24th, 2021, and the discussion on the matter hereby approve application A03-2021 as applied for, subject to the following condition: that the applicant submit a topographic survey to the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority and obtain an NVA permit. And I'm going to ask the Secretary Treasurer, is that the same one as you sent me, or is that sufficient?
Yep, that's the official condition.
Thank you. And I have a mover and seconder to that, please. Moved by Member Cooney, seconded by Member Kennedy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cartwright.
Thank you very much, committee.
I'll ask the Secretary Treasurer now to please introduce the next application, item number 4.2 on the agenda.
Thank you, Chair. Minor variance application A0421 by C. Johnson, owner of land known municipally as 2216 South Ore Lake Road. The purpose and effect of the application is to permit the construction of a porch deck with a reduced interior side yard setback as described as being an interior side yard setback of 3.4 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 4.5 meters.
Thank you. Is there any additional correspondence or comments on this application?
Letters of support were provided by Greg and Stephanie Warkentin of 2210 South Ore Lake Road and Tyler Iveson of 2220 South Ore Lake Road. The building department advised that they have no objection to the application. There are no conflicts being presented concerning the septic, and a full review will be conducted during the building permit application process. The Public Works Department advised that they have no concerns, and a letter from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority was received outlining their review and concluding that an owner shall obtain a permit from the NBCA.
Thank you. May I have the applicant please introduce themselves and provide details of what it is you're looking to do?
Good evening, all. Good evening, everybody. My name is Corey Johnson, as mentioned, on 2216 South Ore Lake Road. We applied for a building permit, and part of the renovations we're looking at doing is a porch, which is wraparound. And it's our understanding that currently the width of the porch will be too close, and we're requesting for a minor variance.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to make any oral submissions?
Thank you, Chair. No members of the public registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of committee? Not seeing any. I have a motion that I will read. Motion A0421, that the Committee of Adjustment, having given consideration to the applicable provisions of Section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, characteristics of the land in question and its surroundings as addressed in the planning report on the application dated February 24, 2021, correspondence received, and information presented at the hearing held on February 24th, 2021, and the discussion on the matter, hereby approve application A04 2021 as applied for. May I have a mover and seconder, please?
We just have a condition.
I'm sorry.
So there's just a condition that the owner shall obtain a permit from the NVCA for works within the regulated area.
Thank you. I have a mover and seconder on that. Moved by Webster, seconded by Kennedy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
I ask the Secretary Treasurer to please introduce the next application, item number 4.3 on the agenda.
Minor variance application A0521 by M&J Hillier, owners of lands known municipally as 43 Belmont Crescent. The purpose and effect of the application is to permit a reduced lot frontage for the retained lands to fulfill a condition of consent application B0520 and to permit the existing accessory building to remain on the severed lot as described as being a lot frontage of 24 meters for the retained lands, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum lot frontage of 30 meters and an accessory building to remain on the severed lands, whereas the bylaw requires a main use to be established prior and the gross floor area to be less than the gross floor area of the main use.
Thank you. Is there any additional correspondence or comments received?
Comments were received from the building department advising that they have no objection to the proposal and that a lot grading plan will be required at the time of the building permit application for the new dwelling as per the current building bylaw. Building added that should the applicant move the shed prior to pursuing the building permit application for the new dwelling, the applicant will be responsible to ensure that there are no adverse effects to the neighboring properties. The Public Works Department advised that they have no concerns.
Thank you. May I please have the applicant introduce themselves and provide us with the details of what it is that you're looking for us to do tonight.
Hi there, this is Jeanette Hillier. I'm speaking on behalf of my husband, Michael Hillier, and myself. Dear Committee of Adjustment Department and Planning Department, our application declares our follow-through request by the township to submit a minor variance application as per the documented condition of our consent to sever and create a new lot. This application is being submitted to recognize the reduced lot frontage of the retained lands. Our original sketch, which was submitted in our original application for severance, showed the severed lands and the retained lands to be less than 30 meters frontage requirement. However, after obtaining a recent survey of the property, we're happy to report that a minor variance is only required for the retained lands as the proposed severed lands exceed their 30-meter requirements at 30.93 meters. The reduced frontage of the retained land is 24.40 meters, which is 5.6 meters less than the required 30 meters. This proposed severance is appropriate as it is similar to many other lot fabric and frontage in our community as per our initial application for severance findings, which were included in our initial application for consent to sever. At the time of this meeting, there were no questions or concerns raised. Also included in our minor variance application is a request to keep the existing detached shed that was erected in 1992. It is located on the newly severed portion of the land. This shed is in good condition. It's already on the property and is no impact to the surrounding neighborhood. As well, the size and height comply with the requirements under the bylaw. Our intent for this shed is the same as it has been since we moved to 43 Belmont, which is to use it for storage. As well as having sentimental significance to our family, keeping this shed on our property makes practical sense as it allows for an environmentally conscious choice as we can preserve more trees, not having to build another storage shed in the future. We would like to share that although it is not a condition in our consent, we intend to keep as many existing trees on this property as possible. We have consulted with an arborist who has informed us of which trees have reached their life expectancy and which trees continue to be viable. Keeping as many trees as possible on our lot is of utmost importance to us. In consultation with the arborist, we have proposed to relocate the shed to an area that will already be impacted by the proposed dwelling construction. This will also assist to avoid removing as many viable trees as possible. As well as honoring our requirement to pay a nature fee, we also intend to plant trees on the property once the new dwelling is constructed. Thank you for considering this application.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public registered to submit any oral applications?
No members of the public have registered to make an oral submission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members of the committee, do you have any questions concerning this application? Member Webster. I'm sorry, Rick. we
Thank
can't
you.
hear you. Okay.
I was muted. I'm sorry. I'm just a little confused or curious. So ultimately, the plan is to build a house on the severed lot and leave the shed there? Is that what I heard?
No, it's to build a house on the severed lot and to keep the existing shed. However, we will have to move it to the back of the property because of where it's located right now is kind of in the middle of that property.
I see. May I continue, Chair Gannon? The issue I see is that the garage as it stands will affect the size of the house, but you will exceed as I read it, you will exceed the square footage allowed for buildings, given that garage is the size that it is. Am I incorrect or?
Yeah, we were told there's the severed property has enough square footage to allow for, I can't remember if it was something like 3,600 square feet. We're building a 2,000 square foot bungalow. So that shed is 690 square feet.
I see. Thank you. Again, through Chair Gannon, I understand now. I wasn't predicting, I guess, that the size of the house. I couldn't quite get that from the application. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Planner List, did you wish to say something?
No, that's okay. I just wanted to clarify that the applicants will be required to meet any zoning bylaw requirements for the new house, including lot coverage. In terms of the actual square footage, the accessory building meets the requirement, which is has to be a maximum of 700 square feet or 699.68.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the committee? I just have one question of the applicant. When are you anticipating building? How long of a process is this?
We anticipate to build in May, and we are told that the building construction should be completed no later than December.
Thank you. Any other questions then for the committee? Okay. I have a motion for A0521. And I'll read it, that the Committee of Adjustment, having given consideration to the applicable provisions of Section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the land in question and its surroundings, as addressed in the planning report on the application dated February 24, 2021, correspondence received and information presented at the hearing held on February 24, 2021, and the discussion on the matter, hereby approve application A05 2021 as applied for. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'll ask the secretary to please introduce the next application, item number 4.4 on the agenda.
Thank you, Chair. Consent applications B0421, B0521, and B0621 by Jay Robinson of MHBC on behalf of the owner of lands known municipally as 86 Mill Street East. The purpose of the application is to obtain approval to sever 3 new residential lots. The applicant proposes to retain approximately 28,795.4 square meters or 7.11 acres of lot area with approximately 38.3 meters of lot frontage on Mill Street East.
Thank you. Has there been any additional correspondence and or comments that have been received?
Comments were received from the township's drainage superintendent advising that the property is not assessed into any municipal drains and therefore no condition to satisfy the Drainage Act is required. Hydro One advised that they have no comments or concerns. Comments were also received from the Ministry of Transportation, who advised that the site is not located within the MTO permit control area, and as such, they have no concerns. The building department recommended that a conceptual overall grading plan be provided and reviewed by the township engineer. The Public Works Department advised that they have no concerns with the application. And the township's engineer provided comments regarding the existing and proposed driveways, existing services, stormwater management, and sediment and erosion control measures. The engineer advised that a draft reference plan for the proposed severances, conceptual lot grading plan, and tree preservation plan should be provided by the applicant. A letter from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority was received and concluded that their staff recommend the application be deferred on the basis that the applicant should revise the lot configurations in a manner that conforms to wetland buffer setbacks. The MVCA requires additional time to review the submitted environmental impact study. Township staff should address the recommended rezoning of the wetland and natural heritage features.
Thank you. I have the applicant's agent, please introduce themselves and provide us with your overview.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am not Jamie Robinson with MHBC Planning. My name is Wes Crown. I'm also with MHBC Planning. And Jamie's the smarter of the employees with MHBC because he's at home this evening with his young family. I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to run through. I'd like first to, Mr. Chairman, just to let the committee know that we've received the comments from the NVCA. We've reviewed them in detail and have discussed them with our client. It's our opinion that their comments are preliminary in nature in that they have not yet had the chance to review the environmental impact study that was submitted in support of the application. And it's our submission that once they've had the time to do that, they will be in a position to submit revised comments to the municipality. Our request to the committee is to hold this hearing to get the additional public comments and input on the consideration of this application, and then to defer a decision on this application until we've had time to work with the MVCA to make sure that they've had a chance to review the EIS and to prepare revised comments to be submitted to your committee for consideration. Mr. Chairman, with your approval of the committee's agreement, I'd like to share my screen and run through a presentation with respect to the applications that are before you this evening.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the Secretary Treasurer noted, there are 3 applications for consent that are before you this evening with respect to the property at 86 Mill Street East. The subject property is approximately 3.3 hectares in lot area with a frontage of 133.8 meters. For those of you like me who still think a little bit in imperial, that's approximately 8.1 acres in size. The property is on the north side of Mill Street, about a kilometer east of Highway 93, and is located within the Hillsdale settlement area. And as the committee will be aware, being located within a settlement area is a critical component in the planning review and analysis and the consideration of the application. The property is serviced by private sewage and municipal water and currently supports a single detached residential dwelling that is serviced by an existing on-site class 4 septic system and municipal water. So, Mr. Chairman, the proposal that's before you in the form of those 3 applications is to create 3 new building lots on the north side of Mill Street East and 1 retained lot. The retained lot, which would be vacant, has a lot area of 2.87 hectares, frontage of 38.3 meters. It's about 7 acres in size, Mr. Chairman. The 3 severed lots, one of which would contain the existing residential dwelling, all would meet the municipality's minimum frontage a requirement of 30 meters, and all have areas of 0.4 hectares or larger, again, fully complying with the requirements of the municipality zoning bylaw. Mr. Chairman, we did submit a detailed planning justification report dated January of this year in support of the application. There was also, as I noted earlier, an environmental impact study by Berks Natural Heritage Consultants dated December of last year. That was also submitted in support of the application. I understand, Mr. Chairman, from your agenda that both of those reports were provided to the committee as part of your agenda. And so certainly, I'm not going to go into great detail of either of those 2 reports, but certainly willing to answer any questions that the committee may have. As the committee is aware, there is a hierarchy of planning documents that guide your consideration and decision of this application. I'll start with the provincial policy statement, which again directs that the settlement areas across Ontario should be the focus of growth and development in the province, and Hillsdale, being a settlement area, is a location for additional growth and development. The growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, it being consistent with the PPS, also indicates that settlement areas should be the focus of growth and development municipalities. And again, Hillsdale is a settlement area within the Township of Springwater official plan. The County of Simcoe official plan, again, directs that the majority of growth should be directed to settlements across the county, and Hillsdale is identified as a settlement on Schedule 5.1 of the county's official plan. The Township of Springwater official plan has 3 different designations on the property, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more detail on the next slide. In section 2871 of the official plan does permit severance applications. Mr. Chairman, this is an extract from the Township of Springwater official plan as amended. And as you can see, there are 3 different designations: urban, residential, rural, and natural heritage on the property. The portion of the property that is the subject of the 3 applications that are before you is urban residential, with the balance of the property being environmental protection, and there's a small corner in the northwest corner of the property that's the rural designation. Again, the municipality's official plan does permit and encourage and support residential development by way of severance application in this location and in this designation. Mr. Chairman, the subject property is fully zoned residential R1 in the municipality's official plan, and it's highlighted in red on this slide. And the proposed severed and retained lots, as highlighted both in the staff report and in this presentation, fully comply with the minimum frontage and area requirements of the municipality. And Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to read this slide in this table, but it just confirms the frontage and area requirements and the proposed uses for each of the lots, both the 3 severed and the 1 retained. Mr. Chairman, this again is a slide which shows the illustration of the proposed lots. The retained lot would fully support the wetland that was identified on the property as part of the official plan. It currently yet does not show up in the municipality zoning bylaw. There's always a bit of a gap between amending official plan and the implementation of those into the local zoning bylaws. Mr. Chairman, the EIS that was prepared by Berks NHS and our environmental consultants conducted a number of site investigations on the property, including a site visit with the MVCA, at which I was in attendance as well. And the wetland, as you know, is currently unevaluated. It is not provincially, regionally, or regionally significant. And as such, our consultant concluded that a vegetation protection zone or a buffer of 15 meters was more than sufficient to protect the feature and its functions, and was in keeping with the requirements of the provincial policy statement, as well as the Ministry of Natural Resources guidelines with respect to unevaluated local wetlands. So that was the recommendation that was contained within the EIS. We've designed the development proposal that's in front of you this evening to respect those recommendations of the EIS, to keep the development out of the wetland and in the buffer area that's been recommended. There is room with that 15-meter buffer for a driveway into the rear of the retained lot. My client's intention at this time is to hang on to the retained lot and not particularly develop it at the moment, hoping that he'll see changes in time, either in the provincial policy framework or in the condition of this unevaluated wetland, which he believes is the result of water that's been directed from adjacent properties, and that with the development of the subdivision to the north of the property, he believes that the conditions of the site will change over time. Mr. Chairman, very briefly in conclusion, it's our opinion that the application meets the requirements of Section 51 of the Planning Act. That this application is consistent with and conforms to the range of provincial plans and policies that you are should be considering as part of your decision on this application. Mr. Chairman, as I think I noted, certainly willing to answer any questions, but hope the committee will agree with our request on behalf of my client to defer the application so that we can work further with the MBCA to address the fact that they just haven't had time yet to review the EIS. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation, and certainly willing to answer any questions that the committee has.
Thank you. I have to ask if there are any members of the public registered first to make any submissions regarding this application.
Thank you, Chair. No members of the public have registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. Any members of committee who have any questions at this particular time? I don't see any. Thank you. So the applicant is requesting that we defer this. And let me come to the piece of my script here. I have a motion then on B0421, B0521, and B0621. I will read it and ask for a mover and seconder. That applications B0421, B0521, and B0621 are hereby deferred until the next available Committee of Adjustment meeting at the applicant's request. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Cooney, seconded by Kennedy. All in favor? Thank you. So as you requested, Mr. Cowan, we have deferred this, and when you have met with NVCA and have the problems resolved, we'll be more than happy to entertain your request again.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. All right, moving on. May I have the Secretary Treasurer please introduce item 5.1 on the agenda?
Appeal notice for minor variance and consent applications A1620, B0720, B0820, B0920, and B1020, Windstar Developments, Inc.
Thank you. I have a motion before me that the Committee of Adjustment hereby receive the amended acknowledgement letter from LPAT regarding an appeal to minor variance and consent applications A1620, B0720, B0820, B0920, and B1020 Windstar Developments. We have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Cooney, seconded by Kennedy. All in favor? Mr. Webster, go ahead and ask to speak. Can't hear you. Sorry, we can't hear you, Rick.
It's a long day. This is about going to LPAT with this file, right?
Correct.
On the right page there? First of all, I'd just like to make a note that at that last meeting, CO Smith informed us that the notion of planning committee recommending was actually part of the Planning Act. And I went to the Planning Act, I had a brief read of that, and I couldn't find it. And subsequently, neither could CO Smith, who sent me an email. I don't know if I copied you all on or not, but it is not in the Planning Act that Planning Department needs to recommend any files to us. They do as a matter of course, but that's not, it's not legislated that they must. I want to clarify that because that was a statement that was made at our last meeting. And perhaps Chair Gannon, you'll recall that.
Yes.
Thank you. Additionally, I don't know that we've been notified whether we're being supported in this, whether we need to support ourselves, whether council is in agreement with our decision. I've heard nothing. Does anybody think that we should know?
If I recall, Member Webster, this is just a preliminary notice that it's going to LPAT. Once more information is available, we will have no doubt a meeting similar to what we had earlier with the municipal solicitor advising us of the options.
Again, if I could, through the chair or to the chair, I believe this is calling for dates for participants. There's actually saying you have such and such a date to hear. It's to the public. It's the whole notice of hearing, right?
I'm going to have to ask the Secretary Treasurer if she can read the correspondence because I can't put my finger on it right at the moment. Could you please do that?
It's my understanding that any questions are to be referred to the case manager for this file. I believe his name is Ryan Coe, and I also believe his contact information is in that document. If not, I can send an email with his contact information.
Has the hearing date been struck?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Through the chair to you, has the hearing date been struck?
I'm not
No.
aware of the hearing date right now, no.
Okay. So once the hearing date is struck, we will have to respond to this within 10 days from what I've read.
Again,
I'm going to go at, if I can just interrupt here, Planner Belcourt, did you wish to jump in here and offer some comments?
One second, I'll allow you to talk, Ms. Belcourt, one moment. We still can't hear you, one moment. Can you try speaking now? Can anyone hear her?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Through you, Chair Gannon, to Committee Member Webster, just to clarify, the item we are on is about the WinStar applications on Glen Echo. It is a notice of appeal that was received for a new LPAT hearing. This is a separate appeal from what was discussed previously in closed session.
Right, so Rick, this is not the Langell appeal.
I understand, Rick. We have two separate motions here. First one is for WinStar, which is the property behind Bayfield Street. And the second one is the one in Menacing.
My apologies.
Okay, so go ahead. Go ahead, Henry. And it's
Do you care then? Are they both on your 5.2?
One's 5.1 and one's 5.2, so I believe that's where the confusion was.
Okay,
They're
got it.
both under correspondence and action items.
I got you. Yep, okay.
Okay, so going back to the original motion, which dealt with Windstar applications A1620, B0720, B0820, B0920, B1020. We had a mover and a seconder, and Secretary, can you remind me who those were?
I did not yet record a mover and a seconder for item 5.1.
Okay, so can I have a mover and seconder for item 5.1? Moved by Kennedy,
Oh.
seconded by Cooney.
Okay.
All
there
in
we go.
favor of receiving that information? Carried, thank you. Okay, 5.2 on the agenda, and that is the ones that Lauren and Patty had made a notice of pecuniary interest on it. So we have a motion that Committee of Adjustment hereby receive the appointment of for hearing letter from LPAT regarding an appeal to consent application B0320 Lengale. Between Mr. Vanderweilen and Mr. Webster, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Webster, seconded by Vanderweilen. Okay, just move it first, Henry, so that I can put it on the floor. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now it's on the floor. Go ahead, Henry.
So on this one then, the actual hearing is going to be at 10 a.m. on Thursday, March 11th. Is that right?
That's the notice that they have submitted. That doesn't mean that the hearing will occur because there are other items that took place or are taking place in the background.
Okay.
Okay, can I have the motion on the floor. All in favor to receive the motion or the information? Carried, thank you. Okay, we're into other business. Is there any other business to discuss this evening, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Item 6.1 on the agenda, appointment of Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. So it appears that our original Secretary Treasurer is returning back from her mat leave, and I have a motion here that the Committee of Adjustment hereby appoint Sophie Etu as the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. May I have a seconder and a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Kennedy, seconded by Cooney. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carried. I believe at this time it would be appropriate to thank Shania for all of her efforts at the past year. It has been a real challenge, but you've stepped up and done an admirable job and very good job of keeping us in line. Hopefully, we will continue to have your presence around the organization and keep us in tow.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be the moderator moving forward.
Well, that's why you were practicing today. Good work. Okay, is there any other business that the committee has that isn't on the agenda? Go ahead, Henry.
It just, so I don't know if it's me, but so like I don't see Lauren or Patty on the screen. Like,
You probably don't have it on grid. You need to go to the top right-hand corner.
Gallery view.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get that for the next time then. So.
Thank you. There,
Yeah, I see Rick and I see
now you see their
and
smiling faces. You're happy with that?
And I see Shania, but that's it. So,
Hi,
anyways.
Henry.
Hey, I see you now, Lauren.
There you go. Any other business for the committee this evening? None. Thank you. Thank you all members of planning staff who are here this evening, sitting in and moderating and listening to our rants and raves. Can I have a motion then that the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on February 24th, 2021.
Here, Gannon?
Yes. I can't
Sorry.
read and talk to you at the same time.
Just one question is, the kilometers, did you want us just to tell you that, or how do you want that put in?
You have to
So
record
I
it in
sent an
writing.
email out. If you could just respond to that email.
Okay. Good,
It went out
Okay.
earlier today.
sorry.
Oh, there's Sophie. Okay, so hello, Sophie, welcome back.
Hi. I just wanted to say hi.
Well, it's good to have you back. I hope that motherhood has been an interesting year for you.
It has been.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder to end this meeting at 7:50? Moved by Kennedy, seconded by Cooney, that this Committee of Adjustment meeting held on February 24th, 2021 now does adjourn at 7:50. May all in favor? Thank you. Meeting is now adjourned. Carried. Thanks, everyone.
Not at all.